Hey folks, Pat here from DNS, and this Madison area fishing report is current as of September 20th. Geez, my apologies about the late post here. It's just been an unusually busy morning here at the shop, and I guess, we'll talk about some of that a little bit later. I don't have any news, but a little bit of shop news. Part of the reason why we have been so busy this morning is Beaver Dam tip-ups are out. So I know it's going to be 85 degrees today, and not a lot of people are thinking about ice, but the folks at Beaver Dam are, and they're shipping out tip-ups, and I got them in. And these are, for a lot of folks, collector's items. So people get excited when they see the new models that have come out. Of course, I got a display here. Got some of your classics, a couple holdovers from last year, and then these three here are the newest models and limited edition, of course. So one is the walleye school, it's called. So it's just this walleye jumping out of the water, and then they repeat that image across the board down there. They got a breast cancer awareness one here, which is, of course, pink, and then fight cancer on the flag. And then the snot rocket one, which is pretty funny. It says snot rocket on the flag, and then it's got a pike painted into the board that's got a bunch of slime all over it and fire coming out of its butt. So that's pretty fun. So these guys always do a good job. And like I said, they're collector's items that people are, it's kind of a hot commodity. And after I posted last night, I had so many people in here this morning picking them up. So grab them while you can. They're going to go fast. Otherwise, as far as door announcements, not much going on. Troy Farms is having their last event up the road here on October 5th. And there's a blood drive on the 24th, Tuesday next week. But if you have a conservation-related event, fishing especially, or maybe you're just here on the north side of Madison and just want to promote something, we're happy to put posters up. Just let us know. I guess, though, as far as the report goes, we can get into that. Another hot, dry week here in Madison, but we did get some much-needed rain last night, and I do have a screen capture here. This is 24-hour rainfall totals. Here we are in Madison. You can see we got, I don't know, half an inch to an inch of rain in our area. Looks like they got more out west. This gray dot here is Fenimore, and between Dodgeville and Fenimore there, looks like a lot of red in Grant County. Or I'm sorry, orange and yellow. So, if you're going out there trout fishing, you might find some dirty water, but the ground was really dry. So I got to think a lot of that got soaked up anyway. But anyway, got a bunch of rain, and it was much needed, believe me. The Mendota buoy site is still down, but I'm hearing temps in the low 70s on Mendota, and I was talking with Noah Humfeld of Madison Angling Guide Service just yesterday, and he said the same. He's been finding 70 to 74 and a half, I think he said. Rain last night probably helped the situation, but the last I heard, things are pretty green around the chain. Monona is very green. I've heard words like pea soup used to describe Wabisa and Kiganza. Mendota still has decent clarity. Noah was out there yesterday. He said he had about 2 feet of visibility, but the water was greenish. But again, that rain we had last night should help keep some of the algae at bay. And floating weeds too on the north side of the lake here are still a bit of a problem from the weed cutters coming through. No tournaments in the area this weekend that I saw on the DNR's website. So as far as the report goes, generally, like I said, the lack of rain and plentiful sun and heat has had algae blooms popping off in many areas around the chain, but it really hasn't seemed to affect the fishing that much. It's still been great fishing, generally speaking. The weed line is getting a little more difficult to find these days, but they're still the best place to start looking for fish. Bluegill action around town continues to be good, with a lot of gills found in 10 feet of water and less now as weeds start to die back. Look for those fish right in the weeds, and if you can find a weed pocket, that's even better. Gills are still suspended out over deep water in Lake Monona, and although those fish are starting to move up into the weeds as well, they are still out over the deep water, but they are moving in. Fish out over in front of the Monona Terrace wall still. Action over there continues to be good. A small jig tipped with a piece of redworm, spike, or waxworm is really all you need for gills anywhere on the chain this time of year. Crappies continue to be elusive, but are being found on weed edges and near structure. A crappie minnow or a minnow-shaped plastic under a small jig is a pretty safe bet for those fish. Otherwise, other than a very few reports here and there we'll talk about later, I'm still not hearing much in the way of perch. Bass have been in a good mood around the chain. Largemouth are up shallow for the most part, and a lot of things work for those fish. But this time of year, with the weeds still being pretty thick, weedless rig plastics, swim jigs, and of course topwater frogs are all good options. Smallmouth are being found mostly on weed edges, outside weed edges, especially near rocky shoreline breaks in 10 to 20 feet of water. Although Noah was saying that he's had some great smallie action running paddle tail swim baits out over the top of weeds and rocky, weedy areas, 4 to 6 feet deep, and also finding some nice walleyes in there too. So speaking of walleyes, in addition to shallow, rocky, weedy areas, walleyes are being found in mid-lake humps in good numbers, 10 to 20 feet of water and deeper on hot, sunny days like today. Half night crawler with a large fathead on a jig or a drop shot's a good idea for those fish. That's not to say folks aren't still getting fish trolling crankbaits and crawler harnesses. And of course, when the walleyes move up shallow at night to feed, jerkbaits and swim baits are great options. But while you're casting, at night, you might as well toss out a lighted bobber with a fathead underneath to cover all your bases. I've been hearing about a couple nice muskie being caught here and there, and that fishing will only improve as the water cools down now that fall is coming in. Noah says running bucktails and glide baits over the tops of submerged weeds in less than 10 feet of water has been working well for him. Pike are plentiful around the chain and will grab just about anything. Area rivers and streams are all mostly below their average seasonal levels for this time of year. Up here on Cherokee, still a lot of weeds up there, but they are coming down, starting to die back. Some pockets opening up there. I drove by not too long ago. If you got a small watercraft, you can launch here at the School Road Boat Launch and get in out to the main channel out here and find some more weed-free fishing. The 113 Bridge area still producing good numbers of fish, but you just really never know what you'll catch. Could be a big cat, could be a bunch of white bass or some bluegills. Down on Lake Mendota, those cats have dispersed out into Lake Mendota, and I still hear about cats being picked up in random places all over the lake. But some consistently good producers have been the Tenney Park breakwall over here and the Warner Park breakwall. Otherwise, as far as other species go, there have been good gill action around the lake. Like I said, look on outside weed edges, but there's some nice gills also mixed in with walleyes on mid-lake humps. So you got Dunn's Bar, you got Second Point, Commodore, Brearley bars. Check any of those and find some weeds, and you'll likely find some bluegills mixed in with some walleyes. Otherwise, smallmouth are on, mostly shallow areas, 10, 15 feet near shoreline breaks, weeds, and like Noah said, just up in the weeds, just running a paddle tail over the tops of the weeds has been super effective for him. So areas like Maple Bluff, Governor's Island, Picnic Point, Second Point, all good options. Walleyes are hanging in with those fish, but like I said, also on mid-lake humps. The night bite for walleyes has been good in areas like the University Shoreline, Tenney Park Breakwall, and Warner Breakwall. Pike are pretty much everywhere and hungry. What else? Oh yeah, perch. So perch have been elusive all summer, but I did hear a couple guys come in this week, and they said that they've been getting them right in the weeds. So not weed edges, and weed edges have been hard to find. Right in the weeds, and pretty thick weeds. If you can find a pocket in the weed, that's great. But when I say pocket, they were saying, right off the side of the boat in holes maybe this like the size of a coffee can. If you can get a jig down through those weeds, you'll likely find fish. Now, the fish haven't been the biggest fish in the world. You got to sort through them to get some keepers, but at least somebody somewhere is finding some keepers finally. So I guess that's a good sign. And it sounds like there's tons of fish down there. They're just all hiding in the weeds. So we'll see what the winter's like, but it's been a rough summer for panfish. Tenney Park breakwall has been good. Good mixed bag there. A lot of bass around, I hear, these days. Tenney Park Lock and Dam, it's hit or miss below there, but they have been getting some nice gills out of there if you time it right. Tenney Park Lagoon, of course, full of tiny gills, a good largemouth bass population, and some carp, if that's your thing. Down on Lake Monona, where the river dumps out here, there's always a bunch of fish hanging out there, mixed bag of fish. Otherwise, bluegills on outside weed edges, bluegills suspended down over deep water, bluegills out from the Monona Terrace wall, bluegills in Monona Bay, bluegills in Turville and Weechawak Bay. There's bluegills everywhere. So, but I was talking with Brian Zupi last week, and he was saying that they are starting to push in shallower. So instead of like outside weed edges, where you'll still find some, look in the weeds and look in water like 10 feet or less. And in particular, this kind of southeast end of the lake has been pretty productive lately. As far as winger goes, a lot of small gills in there, good largemouth bass population. Mostly smaller muskies, but a good number of muskies there. Haven't heard much out of the Monona Bay and Triangles area other than some gills. Haven't heard much for walleyes other than a few being picked up by folks fishing crappies and stuff off the Monona Terrace wall. The crappie population off the wall at night, or really at all, has been slow, and I guess that's a little concerning. But I guess it is what it is. So down here, south of Lake Monona, you got Upper Mud, got the dredge hole over here up in the corner. sounds like some good, Brian Zugi was telling me, good bluegills on the weed edge around the dredge hole, but also some crappies and bluegills suspended about 10 feet down over the dredge hole. A lot of good largemouth bass around the shallows around the dredge hole. Lake Wabisa, a lot of gills, same thing, weed lines in the weeds, all around the lake. Some good largemouth bass action up here near Lake Farm in the north end, also on the south bay here. And I've been hearing about some walleye action picking up. Haven't heard anything for perch either on, I should have said Monona or Wabisa. But anyway, did hear about some walleye action out from Babcock Park, fishing shoreline breaks in like 20 feet of water right on the bottom with some crankbaits had been productive, but also hearing about some folks getting jigging and stuff on the weed lines. Fish Camp County Park has been producing some decent gills on Keeganza, and also some good gill action out here kind of on the southeast end of the lake out from the state park. And speaking out from the state park, haven't really heard any reports, but if you're looking for walleyes, there's great structure out here for those fish. Down on Lake Koshkonong, it sounds like the bite's been slow down there. I saw that Bait Box on the Rock had posted a thing about, since the water's come down, the walleye have been hard to pattern. But in the river, at the Indian Ford dams and the Jefferson dams, they've been getting good action up there, especially white bass and some flatheads. I've heard about a few flatheads coming off there. It's that time of year that usually picks up this time of year. But Koshkonong's been a mystery. Also, I heard it's been pretty green down there as well. And also for the Madison chain, I guess I sort of glossed on over it, but a lot of green water out there. Haven't heard much out of Beaver Dam lately. I'm sure it's got some catfish. Trout up at Devil's Lake been good. The Wisconsin River's down low now. It's a little low for this time of year. But what that does is concentrate the fish. So a lot of bass school up. They're getting their fall feed bag on here, so they're chasing around big schools of shad and other bait fish. Look to bottom areas below sandbars and deeper corners, shoreline structure. And if you see those fish busting minnows on the surface, just toss something in there that looks like a minnow, and I almost guarantee you you'll catch fish. But it's like that all the way up the river, up to the dams. Prairie du Sac Dam, nice mixed bag of fish up there. Sturgeon season is open till the end of the month. Harley, that works here at the shop, was up there with some buddies, actually fishing here and a couple other dams up the river and doing well on sturgeon. I don't think they've cracked 60 inches yet, but still a lot of fun. Also some good catfish and a lot of white bass around a lot of these dams up and down the river. Otherwise, Lake Wisconsin, I heard, was pretty green the last few days. Maybe the rain helped out there. A lot of panfish in the shallow bays with crappies being pretty plentiful near structure, it sounds like. Otherwise, out in all the flowages up and down the lake, you're looking at finding fish on shoreline breaks, 5 to 20 feet of water, trolling those areas, and also all the dams. So Pete and Well, Castle Rock dams, all these dams are going to be great this time of year. So, and speaking of dams, dams on the Mississippi River also producing fish. The water is down over there after a long summer of high water. Been finding walleyes on wing dams, smallmouth on wing dams, and perch on some weed lines. If you can find some weeds, you'll likely find some perch and probably some other panfish. Bluegills on shoreline rocks. Over to Milwaukee, the warm water and the warm weather we've had recently have kept the salmon really from moving into the harbors. I heard they're kind of moving in there, but they're not accessible by the shore guys yet. And the boat guys have been having a little trouble too. So once things cool down, if we get a good west wind, I guess that's what they need to push some of this water out and bring some cold water in. But soon those fish are going to be moving into the harbors, and then they'll be moving up the rivers, and then it's game on as far as the salmon run goes. And then you got browns behind them and steelhead behind them, and it's one of my favorite times of the year to be out. But no word yet on much shoreline action over there. Probably still smallmouth and pike in the rivers, but that's not going to last long once the salmon move in. And then that action will continue all the way up the East Coast there. I think that pretty much does it for the normal warm water report. Trout fishing around the area has been good. I was out, maybe you saw a post. I was out on Wednesday, did absolutely fabulous. Small water and hoppers is really all you need this time of year. I had an absolute fantastic day fishing this hopper right here. This is kind of my go-to hopper we sell here at the shop. It's got a really creative name. It's called Tan Hopper. Maybe a boring name, but it's a super awesome fly, and I love it. And I was mostly just going to talk about some of my bigger hoppers for like hopper droppers this week in our Happy Fly Day feature here. But I had to throw this one in there just because I had such a good, I always have good days with this hopper. So swing by and grab some of those. Otherwise, we got some bigger hoppers. This is called a snoozeberry hopper. It's not only got foam, it also has a deer hair head. And then this one is called a hopper something mega hopper. I don't know what it is, but anyway, it's a great hopper if you want to fish hopper droppers. I personally just fish tiny water this time of year, so I do not fish hopper droppers very often. But if you're on bigger water and you like fishing nymphs, you can certainly use one of these in place of a strike indicator. I mean, strike indicator and one of these big flies does this exact same thing, only this one has a hook on it. And if you get a random fish that's in the mood and grabs it, you could have a nice fish on your hands. So anyway, we carry all these hoppers here at the shop. Swing by and grab them. They're great. As far as trout fishing goes, area creeks have been running low and clear this last week. And even though the days have been hot, the cool nights keep the water temps at a safe level. For spinning gear, Rapala Countdown, crappie-sized tube jigs, small spinners, and spoons are always a pretty safe bet. Otherwise, if you want to toss meat, it's hard to beat a red worm under a bobber. On the fly side of things, mayfly and caddis. I saw some caddis flying around the other day. Hatches aren't very frequent this time of year and are mostly limited to early mornings and evenings. But with the cooler weather coming each daytime, you may catch a daytime hatch. Mayfly nymphs and woolly buggers and other streamers will work if you're fishing subsurface. Otherwise, like I said, it's hopper season. So just get on it. Get some hoppers. You can use ants. You can use beetles. You can use whatever you want. Hoppers are where it's at, I think. So yeah, swing by the shop. Grab some. It's a good time. I guess that pretty much does it for the report. Feel free to call the shop 241-4225 if you have any, want us to expand on anything or have any other questions. Otherwise, post your comments and catches below. I do want to thank you for tuning in, and I wish you luck, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks so much.